All praises, all honor, all glory be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutation to all the Akim doing the pushing his word in sincerity and truth worldwide. And a sincere shalom to the elect. I label this, remember, it's a spiritual battle, okay? What we're going through right now, this is a spiritual battle. We're spirits having a physical experience, okay? This flesh here, we know this flesh right now is corrupt, okay? We need those new bodies. Right now we're getting sick, your body's breaking down, you know what I mean? So carnality versus being spiritual, okay? Spirituality always wins the battle, okay? If you don't have a spiritual mindset, you'll lose the battle, okay? A lot of people, we're in the flesh, okay? So it's kind of hard to feel that, kind of hard not to feel that pain, okay? Or whatever you're going through. But when you have the spiritual mindset, you can understand what you're going through, okay? And why you're going through it. Luke chapter 18 and verse 1. And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, okay? Because why? The flesh is weak and the spirit is willing, okay? So when we're out here, we got to remember these people out here that are, getting on our nerves. Maybe you got a neighbor that's pissing you off, or somebody at work that's trying to do something to you, or just one of these regular old two-third, jakes on the corner. You might be going to a specific spot where you buy, certain foods, and there's a bunch of these rugrats always hanging out there, and they always, trying to get physical with you, or, just being carnal, right? Remember, God, keep this thing spiritual, okay? Be in, be out. Don't engage with them. Don't, fall into their bullshit, okay? Because you got to remain spiritual. If you don't remain spiritual, you're going to be flinging back to the carnal. And when you're flinging back into the carnal, you done lost the game right there, okay? Yeah, let's get this real quick in Romans. Let's get this real quick. Romans chapter 8 and verse 6. So letting your sinful nature control your mind leads to death, but letting the spirit control your mind leads to life and peace. So you see, letting the carnality control your mind leads to death, okay? But letting the spirit and being in the spirit control your mind, your actions, your doings, your thinking, right, leads to life and peace. These individuals out here, when you see them at these chicken spots or whatnot, somebody says something about them, you know what I mean? Or looks at them the wrong way, they get into a fight, somebody loses their life. So we got to remember that we're not like these people. We are given a gift. We are given something that was more special than anything here in the world, man. Okay? And this is a spiritual walk. As soon as you want to get carnal and be like them, you lose. Okay? You have something that's more valuable than what they got. They ain't got shit. Okay? So letting the spirit control your mind, right, leads to life and peace. But if you want that carnality to take control of your mind, it leads to death. Okay? So remember the walk that we're in. We're in a this is spiritual. What's happening here? We could identify and see, but the 2/3 they can't. Okay? 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3. We are human, but we do not wage war as humans do. We use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments, okay? And human reasoning out there is, somebody says something about you, your woman, whatever it may be, you want to get carnal, you want to get up in their face. But as soon as you do that, you're withdrawing from, the gifts that you have, okay? Because remember, you pray unto Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and he heareth you. Okay? Their prayers never get answered. Their prayers get answered by the devil. Okay, that JC stuff that they be involved in. But us, we know through the Son, we have that connection. Our spiritual umbilical cord is not cut. So therefore, we must use, Yahweh's mighty weapons, okay, which is through the Spirit. Okay, it's not through worldly weapons as it mentions here. Okay. And yeah, to destroy false arguments, these other guys out here, a lot of these Christian guys too, these apologists, I've seen a lot of videos where they want to get all up in people's face. They want to, they want to get carnal. Okay, well we don't use that. We use exactly the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushai through the Spirit to destroy those phony arguments. And when they don't understand it, we don't get physical and want to punch them out and whatnot. You don't get it, nigga, move on. Okay? But the way with them, they're so carnal that they're telling you must accept, Hey, if you don't get it, you don't get it. Okay? It's no hair off our back. And this way it talks about a prudent man for seeing that evil. Because what? Remember, it's a spiritual battle. As soon as you want to get carnal and be like them, you're going to walk into the same deadly traps as they do. Because they don't use the Spirit. They don't use gifts that Yahweh Shem Yahushua has given us. They don't have it, okay? So if you don't have a spiritual mindset, you'll lose the battle, okay? Which, they'll lose the battle. But Lord will, we be of that number, and we get to conquer over. Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 12, NLT, a prudent man foreseeth danger and take precaution. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. A prudent man foreseeth the danger and take precautions. How does he do that? Through the Spirit. Okay? Through these lessons that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is putting up, starting with our apostle elders, the elders, the bishops, the Akim, okay, men that have experience, starting with our apostle elders over 40 years within this truth, being tried and tested out, chastened, okay? So they have right reasoning. They know, between the spirit of truth and between the spirit of error, okay? So that's a prudent man. A prudent man be able to, dive into these scriptures, Romans 15 and verse 4, and discern things. If you're walking this way, more than likely this is what's going to happen to you. Okay, well, if you follow in the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, they lead on to life and peace. But you got to be spiritual in order to interact. Let's just say it like that, to carry out those, behaviors that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is acceptable with, That's what a prudent man would do, okay? He has the ability to carry out those behaviors that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is well happy with, and Yahweh Shem Yahushua will look out for that individual, okay? Keep him as the apple of his eye, okay? Not meaning that we're not going to go through things. We got to be exercised spiritually, right? But, as the judgments that come down upon these 2/3 that we see out here, hey, they're being carnals all day, right? But we're walking this walk spiritually, okay? Even though we be in this physical. That's why the angels are like, wow, look at these men here, okay? Because, like I said, we're in this flesh, okay? We don't get to see the different dimensions, as they would say, right? The things that are all amongst us or around us. Once in a while the chariots pop up to us, yes, but, you don't get to see angels there with swords. We'll get into those scriptures. But anyways, let's go on. First Chronicles 2. No, that wasn't it. No. 1 Corinthians 2 and 14. Salakia. But people who aren't spiritual can't receive these truths from Yahweh's Spirit, see? But people who aren't spiritual can't receive these truths from Yahweh's Spirit. It all sounds foolish to them, and they can't understand it. For only those who are spiritual can understand what the Spirit means. Boom, bottom line. Okay? Bottom line. So you have to be spiritual to get these keys. You got to be spiritual to be able to enter into those doors where those seats are lined up, and you take a lesson, you sit down and humble yourself and take those lessons. Okay? 2/3, they don't got it. They're not equipped. Okay? This is why they fall into the same trap over and over and over. And as I had mentioned, Romans 15 and verse 4, right? These things are written aforetime for our learning, so we consider this, being in the Spirit, walking in the Spirit, right? We consider these things. 2/3, once again, they don't have what it say, but people who aren't spiritual cannot receive these truths from Yahweh's Spirit. It all sounds foolish to them. That's the thing. This all sounds like foolishness to them. You're telling me that a God, this, and he did that to his son, and he lets this happen, and it all sounds foolish to them, but they don't have understanding because they don't have the fear of the Lord. Okay? Because when you go to verse 10, it tells you that Yahweh reveals these things by his Spirit, okay, to us. All right? NLT, but it was to us that Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, revealed these things by his Spirit. Okay? So we have the access. Okay? And like I was saying, that in this spiritual walk, we understand that it's through faith, through believing on Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, making our bodies a living sacrifice. We have the understanding through the Spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua that there's things out there that you don't see. Okay? Psalms chapter 40 and verse 7. Oh, Salakia, that is not it. Is it I forget this. Yep, here it is. Psalms chapter 34 and verse 7. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him and deliver them. Okay, and by faith we believe this through the Spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, that when we're at camp, wherever we may be, the angels of the Lord are watching out, watching over. That's why we'll look up in the sky sometimes and we'll see a chariot appear. And it's like dancing, It's like dancing in the sky. You know what I mean? When we look up and we're like, damn, there's a chariot right there. They're watching over us, right? They'll make a short appearance and disappear. And sometimes it's sitting there and you looking up in the sky at one particular point. Many brothers have done this. And you're looking up in the sky because, your spirit, it's your spirit that's telling you, look, keep looking, Spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, right? And then all of a sudden they'll make an appearance, like boom, get bright, and then all of a sudden trim down and disappear and stay in the same spot, So there's angels around us, man. But some individuals, once again, they don't have the spiritual mind to understand these things because the Lord didn't give it to them. Okay, let's get into the scripture 32 and 7. Yep, 2 Chronicles chapter 32 and verse 7. Be strong and courageous, be not afraid nor dismayed for the king of Assyria, nor for all the multitude that is with him, for there be more with us than him. With him is an arm of flesh, carnality. Okay, talking about the king of Assyria, right? All his weapons, weaponry, whatever. Same thing with Pharaoh. Same thing with the new modern day Pharaoh. All his weaponry is carnality. Okay, they got to use the guns. They got to use the bombs. They got to use the sword. Well, us was our weaponry, spiritual, being spiritual, man. That's where our, how do you say, brigade, army brigade, how do you say it, you know, battalion is there, okay? Because the Lord is watching out for us. And these, like I said, that army is much bigger than them. That's why it says, be courageous, okay? Be not afraid of the multitude that is with him, for there be more with us than with him, okay? Just because they don't, we don't see it physically, we feel it through the Spirit, okay? We know it through the Spirit, okay? So going back into this, with him is an arm of flesh, but with us is Yahweh, our power, to help us and to fight our battles. You see that? And the people rested themselves upon the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. Okay? So it says, but with us is Yahweh our power to help us and to fight our battles. Okay? And if you're not spiritually minded, right, you're gonna fall for the yoke doke. You're gonna look around, you're gonna be like, oh shit, there's multiple of them, yo. Yeah, what do we do? What do we do, yo? And then you're gonna be like this character in Acts. Where is it? Theodos that grabbed himself. Where is it? Yeah, verse 36. Boasting himself to be somebody who got a number of men, 400, and was slain. They were all killed, okay? Because they took the power into their own hand. Alright? Where we rely and secure to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and putting our trust, okay, putting our faith and belief, and fear, pleases him. And those attributes, those characteristics stands out, you know what I mean, with Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. You stand to be an integral man, the Lord will heavily reward you, man. And all our enemies, those who sought to hurt us, look at Haman. Did Mordecai take up a gun, take up a knife, and try to... No. He relied on the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. He trusted in his power. Daniel, thrown in the lion's den. Did he... I'll bow down now. No, I'll bow down now. Yo, get me out of here. Nah. He held it tight. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They held it tight. Okay? The scriptures tell you that verse 48 that they trusted in their power, right? Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Let me see. Is it 3? Let's see. 28. No. 28. Sent his angel, delivered his servants that trusted him. Okay, who have sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him. Okay. So that's the point. Okay, you gotta be, you have to have a strong spiritual mindset. Okay, to when things out here are happening where you're just like, I don't care. That's why the scriptures talk about they love their lives not. They did not love their lives. Okay, let me get it because it's tongue twister. Is it 11 and 12 or 10 and 11? No. Yep. Revelation 12 and 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. Okay? So we trust in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. We're not going to, the panic mode and all that stuff. Yeah, you're in the flesh, right? But when you put that 100% trust, faith into your Lord and Savior, man, you see the magic. You see what happens, okay? So let's go into something else, too. Chronicles. Talking about David here. Well, it has to be second. What am I doing? Salakia. 16. First Chronicles 21 and 16. And David lifted up his eyes and saw the angel of Yahweh standing between the earth and heaven, having a sword drawn in his hand, stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders of Israel who were clothed in who were clothed in sackcloth fell on their faces. Right. There's things that people don't see out there, but they're there. Okay. The air you're breathing in, the atoms, right? Down to the very smallest elements. You don't see them, but they're there. Okay. Susanna 1:59. Then said Daniel unto him, Well, thou hast lied against thine own head, for the angel of Yahweh waiteth with the sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you. Okay? If he saw the angel, would he lie? If he actually saw, would he lie? Right? More 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100. No, they wouldn't lie. They'd be like, oh shit, angel's ready to kill me, you know? Just like was it Philip or Peter? I think it was Philip. Sapphira, the husband and wife, right? That lied. One dropped dead first, the husband. Why'd you lie to me? You haven't lied to me, you lied to Yahweh, yo. He dropped dead, then the wife came, she dropped dead. If they had known and could see, you know, the spiritual power that are upon these men and who these men were, would they have lied? No, they wouldn't have lied. But going back to the flesh once again, you know, that throws you off. It's so powerful, right? This is why you got to be headstrong, spiritually minded, headstrong, man. Because if you're not, you're going to lose this battle, okay? Because you wake up in the flesh, you go to sleep in the flesh, you got to please the flesh. And what do I mean by that? You got to feed it, right? You're a man, you got a wife, you know what that portion is, right? But you have to put your flesh under subjection of the spirit, okay? In order to win this battle. Or else you're going to go off, man. Okay? Yeah, let me go to that real quick and we'll close out. Second Kings chapter 6 and verse 14. Therefore sent he thither horses and chariots and great hosts, and they came by night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God of Yahweh, right, Bashem Yahushai, was risen early and gone forth, behold, and hosts compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servants said unto him, At last, my master, how shall we do? He's like, yo, what are we gonna do, man? You don't see we're compassed around? We in the middle, they made a circle around us. What are we gonna do? Verse 16, and he answered, Fear not. Elisha answered, right? And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. Going back into Chronicles, right? When the host of the Assyrian said, don't worry, there be more with us than him. Okay? And his power is only of flesh, carnality. Our power is spiritual. Okay? And Elisha prayed. Like when you see Magneto and all those X-Men thing doing, that's some spiritual power, man. It's just, remember what the scripture says, foolish to these men here. They don't understand it. So it's foolishness to them. 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and 14, right? It's foolishness unto them. Because they're not spiritual. They can't spiritually discern things. Okay? Oh, what the scriptures say about that? I'm going to get that real quick, actually. Oh, yeah. It's the same scripture. Let me get back. I'm going to close. Oh, shit. Slack. It's right there. It's right there. Let's get back. So, 2 Kings, chapter 6, and verse 16. And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elisha prayed, and said, Yahweh, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahweh opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. Now you know that was an army ready to get down. Okay, you're ready. Make one move, and you gonna see problems. Okay, make one flipping move, and you gonna see problems. Breathe the wrong way, sneeze on them the wrong way. Okay, and you have to be spiritually. Let's get this. 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and 14. But the natural man, going back to the same thing. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of Yahweh, for they are foolishness unto him. Remember, the Lord said that he revealed these things by his Spirit to our spirit. Okay? So we understand, we locked in. As they say, our spiritual umbilical cord is not cut. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Right? You have to have a spiritual mind to understand these things. And if you don't have a spiritual mind, or that spiritual mindset, you're locked in, right? You're not going to understand these things, okay? So, remember, it's a spiritual battle. If you don't have a spiritual mindset, you'll lose the battle. So we got to constantly remember who we are, what we're working for, what we're working towards, man. Okay? And who, first of all, who we're fearing. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, who's in control, right? And many more things, the vow that came with what we're doing, right? The gifts that right now, us having faith, belief, being able to see these things that are spiritually discerned, those are all gifts, okay? So, remember, it's a spiritual battle. If you don't have a spiritual mindset, you will lose the battle. Okay? Let me put that in there. Yeah, if you don't have a spiritual mindset, you will lose the battle. With that, all praises, all honor, all glory be unto Yahweh. Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutation to all the Akim doing and pushing his word in sincerity and truth worldwide. And a sincere shalom to the elect. I hope you're edified. Lord willing, to the next time. Abad Babal. Shalom Akim.